Today, we're going to do a recap of the Europa League game, Manchester United versus Bodo Glimt. We'll also do a preview to the weekend fixture against Everton at home again. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on some not exactly breaking news because the news sort of broke quite a few days ago, not officially, but it was announced officially by Leicester City about the new arrival of Ruud Van Nistelrooy. So let's get stuck in. The game on Thursday, United got the points on the board. That was most important. As our coach Ruben Amorim has stated, that we need to win games, and at the same time we need to show progression, and it will be a bit of a painful process, but as long as we're heading in the correct direction and looking a bit better. And that's also pretty much something that we looking forward to see that progression, to see the team evolve, to see the players get more comfortable with these tactics. And from my perspective, it can only get better. We're already seeing quite a few patterns of play. What I thought was quite positive for the game was the attacking play. It looked a lot more fluid. The players looked a bit more comfortable compared to the first game. And again, it could be taking into account the opposition that we were playing, who were not exactly pushovers. They came there with purpose. Yes, they rotated their team quite significantly, but at the same time, I thought they applied themselves really well, and they had a strong game plan, and they knew where they could hurt us. Once again, it's sort of a similar issue around where teams are able to get at us, and it's pretty much that transition play where we still get caught out. And this is something we need to try and build on and try and get better at trying to basically stop in its tracks, but that'll take, I think, a bit of time and a bit of tweaking. We've seen quite a similar problem happening at Man City, and they're really struggling with it. So I think we can completely relate. It's something we've seen for quite a bit of time. Looking at let's say, the individual players in this game, Mazraoui once again phenomenal. I thought he had a really, really strong game. As our coach pointed out, this guy is a player. He can play pretty much anywhere on the field, and he's just looking the part. I'm hoping he can stay fit because we need him and we need that versatility as well. I would be curious to see him in a wing back position because I think it will also change the impact that he could make. But this position actually suits him quite well. Probably a lot of positions suit him quite well. Um, and then De Ligt, I thought, was relatively solid. Martinez was, again, quite decent as well. We are seeing that the players are starting to push a bit more forward into those channels, the right centre back and the left centre back. And we've also seen De Ligt push up forward as well, which then sort of changes the build up into what we've seen, the 4-2-2-2. So the 4 being the left and right centre back, and then the right wing back and left wing back on either side, and De Ligt sort of pushes forward into the midfield next to Ugarte, and then Bruno jumps forward from his midfield role to basically link up with Mason Mount, and then we've got Garnacho and Hoyland, and that gives us some nice interplay. It gives us some nice patterns, and as we know, Amarim likes to have these diamonds in his team, which is obviously so effective to play against, and you try to overload the opposition into being 4 against 3, and in some cases 4 against 2. We saw that on the right hand side, which I thought was quite strong. Anthony had quite a decent game. I think the role could suit him a bit better. He's got the right profile. I know a lot of us don't really rate him, and we're quite fed up with what we've seen with him. But I thought he had quite a decent game. And if there's a few things he can work on, he's got the raw materials. But yeah, if we can take it to the next level, we'll have to see. So Anthony on the right and linking with Mazraoui at the base, right centre back, combining with Ugarte and combining with Mount, those four players had quite a good understanding. And it gave them a lot of passing options, and they were able to overwhelm and overload the opposition at times. Similarly, on the left, it wasn't as fluid. There were some issues. Tyrell Malacia, first game after quite some time. Yes, he had a few minutes in the youth team, but this was sort of the first taste of action back in the first team. And I think it was a decent showing, relatively tough. He did get caught out on one of the goals. I wouldn't put it solely on him, but he was a bit perhaps slow to react and not as physical. And that's something that our team does lack. However, the change at halftime I thought was quite smart, and it did change the game from my perspective. So seeing Darlow come on, what it also enabled was Garnacho to push a bit wider. And that might become an interesting dynamic, having Darlow, because he's more comfortable inverting in the field and then having your other winger pushing out wide. It still gives you that flexibility, it gives you that option, it drags the opposition out of position. So that was quite a neat change and something quite different. It's something we're not always used to in terms of seeing those proactive changes. We haven't seen that for a while, and not to take a dig at any of our previous managers, but that in-game management is something which I feel we've been lacking, and it's something I'm looking out to see. And I strongly believe, based on what we've seen with Sporting Lisbon, is that this is a strong point of Ruben Amorim, and I'm excited to see that. I think it changes the game for us, where we're actually able to change within games and also adapt what the opposition are doing or not doing. So for me, that was quite a positive. I thought Bruno in the center of the field was quite decent. He played a lot deeper, which I'm still in two minds whether that is his best position or whether he should be further forward. He's able to use his long ball, which we know he loves to do all the time, and he's also able to break forward. So it might be quite a decent option having them. I would still like to see Kobe in that position once he is fit, but yeah, it is going to take a bit of time and time to figure out exactly who fits where. Hoyland had a really strong game. Again, he's got the right profile, and we just need to provide him with the correct service. The first goal was phenomenal, created by Mazraoui, but that first touch and finish was so instinctive, and that was actually quite a ridiculous goal in my view. The second goal was extremely well worked, and that's where we see again that right hand side pushing forward, creating that space, creating the overloads, the cutback by Ugarte, and again, nice finish, nice positioning by Holland. So quite positive. Mount as well, I thought he had quite good link up play, and he was quite effective. He, I think, could be quite a big player for us. So overall, I thought it was quite a decent showing. We did see a bit of progression. We did see some tweaks coming up. My only gripe would still be the transition play, because we do tend to play quite aggressive. We do want to press the opposition quite high, which is great. But at the same time, it's those gaps in midfield, and we just need to see how best to counter it. It could be a personnel issue, but we'll see in the coming weeks how that progresses. Looking forward then to the game on Sunday. Another, for us, pretty much every game is a big game, and they all eagerly anticipate it because we want to see, okay, what's going to happen next. And this will be another different test. It's once again at home. Overall, I mean, we should definitely be looking for 3 points, and I think anything less than that will be obviously quite disappointed. Another thing that I really like about our coach is the winning mentality. And he always mentions that, look, we need to win. We need to win games. And I think it's something we need to instill in the team. We need to have a team of winners. We need to have a team where they actually just looking to basically get the right results, doing what they need to do for the team, having that right mentality. And that will take a bit of time. But as I've already mentioned previously, I love everything that I hear from this coach. There was one, and I've been listening to all of the interviews and press conferences. There was only one particular incident against Ipswich at the end where I thought Ruben got a bit annoyed in terms of saying, he's done so much more interviews in the past 2 weeks relative to the 4 years at Sporting. And obviously it was tongue in cheek, but there was a little bit of frustration. And that's completely fine. I don't think that was anything major. Nobody really picked that much into it. But other than that, everything that has come out of this man has been phenomenal. And again, we're trying to stay grounded, but it's getting exciting. Well, for me, anyways, and I know a lot of United fans have a similar sentiment. So, looking forward to the game. Everton are going to play, we assume, quite a low block. They are very well organized. They are a hard-working team. They are going to sit back, and I'll be curious to see if we are able to break this team down. And I think we have got the players. I want to see something a bit more different, and I'm also curious to see which players come into the team. I wonder if Kobe might be fit, and that'll obviously add quite an interesting dynamic. And I do also want to see some continuity, so certain players continuing in their positions and building from strength to strength. So looking forward to the game. I think it's another massive one. Hopefully we get 3 points. If I had to do a prediction for the game, I would go 2-1 United. A solid 2-1, and I'm looking forward to this one. We obviously have another big week ahead because our next game after that on Thursday is one of the most difficult games for us. Arsenal at the Emirates, and let's see. We'll talk closer to the time on the build up to that game, but that's a massive test and very different. So one step at a time. First Everton this weekend. Let's get the points on the board and see a bit of progression, see some players coming into their own, looking a bit more comfortable. That will be extremely welcome. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on was just the news coming out of Leicester City. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Ruud Van Nistelrooy. I thought he just looks like a manager. He comes across so well. He's got experience, which I think people overlook, and he has done quite a phenomenal job when he was at PSV. And I thought in our interim games, yes, it was only a very short time, but he made some changes. He tried to change also the mentality, and I thought he done extremely well. Really, really, really like him. I'm so glad that he has been given an opportunity and so soon. And at least it makes me feel quite okay because I felt, bringing him into the club with all the uncertainty and then obviously losing the manager and naturally then needing to also move on from there from Ruud, and I guess the sort of positive from that was that it did put him in the shop window and that opportunity did give him another chance. Had he not been at United and as the interim coach, I don't necessarily think he would have been into the job, but that's how it works in football. So it's always pretty much flavor of the month, who's available, who's on the up, who's sort of on the down, and that's the cycle that we go. Quite sad for Stephen Cooper. That wasn't the best sort of end for him. He came into a really difficult situation, but that's football. So really looking forward to seeing how Ruud does. We'll be following Leicester as well to see how they pick up on their results. And that's where we will leave it for today.